The motion, the freedom of motion. The 80s and the 90s are largely considered to be the golden era of the NBA. Magic, Bird, Jordan. It's basically the basketball equivalent of what your parents used to do or your grandparents used to do, where they're like, yeah, I used to walk to school in the snow with no shoes on, uphill both ways, with a lunch pail box filled with potatoes. That's the NBA. That's the old heads in the NBA being like, listen, all these young guns, they don't know what it's like. They don't know what it's like to be assaulted when you go to the rim. All they do, they get a little slap on the hand and they go to the free throw line. I tell you what, a slap in the hand was like a handshake back in my day. We only used to get gas on Wednesdays. We used to line up around the block. The Depression era. That's like the NBA players who we grew up loving, if you're my age, Shaq and Penny and Charles Barkley, like, oh, these guys are so soft. Despite that guys today are in better shape, better condition, can jump higher, run faster, stronger earlier, people believe that played in the 90s, those guys would not be able to survive, let alone thrive in the 90s and the 80s. Why do they believe that? Well, because of something called the freedom of movement rule. Players in the NBA today have been given more freedom to move than they had in the 80s and 90s because, well, we wanted to see more offense. We didn't want to see 87, 91 games. So no hand checking. Shooters get a full landing area that extends multiple zip codes. Full parking spaces for you to kick out and land wherever you want. And basically a guy has to come through and then move out of the way or you get a foul call. All of us, they said it was to allow us to see the full breadth and the depth of the creativity and athleticism on display that these NBA players have in their quivers. But truthfully, it's for money. You know, it's so that it's more watchable and that the NBA can be more profitable. And it has been, right? But economists would point out, a little econ lesson for folks, is there are certain things called unintended consequences, right? You make a decision and then things happen that you didn't exactly see coming. And that happened in this freedom of movement rule. The unintended consequences of the freedom of movement rule were this. 1, all contact now favors the offense. So offensive players start initiating contact on purpose, knowing that the refs are going to call the foul on the defender because they get the benefit of the doubt, not the defender. They get to the free throw line quicker, to the bonus quicker. Defenders that are defensive-oriented players get in foul trouble earlier, so they either get fouled out or they back the fuck up and play more passive defense. They give them more room, which allows you to get more open shots, allowing points to go up and up and up. But not only did that happen, you also get guys like Trae Young and James Harden and Steph Curry exploit these rules. Take advantage of these rules, take advantage of the system, start gaming the system, manipulating it. Like, inside trading kind of a thing, like a manipulative investor. So scoring went up every year for 7 straight years. We saw record free throw attempts. We also saw the game that we love and this freedom of movement, this free-flowing offense that was what it was intended to do, become stagnant on the other side because players just started throwing their bodies into their defenders, and instead of seeing motion, we started seeing free throws only. Nobody gives a fuck about just watching these specimen be at the free throw line all day. That's not what we want. So then the NBA is like, okay, we got to step in. We got to do something about this. Enter this last offseason. The competition committee decided, probably 3 years too late, truthfully, that this is out of fucking hand. Like Trae Young, you can't run and stop short like you do on the road. It would be like if you as a speedy sports car literally are speeding up and you're in a race and you slow the fuck down, you put on your brakes, the other car hits you, and they're like, yo, it's your fault that you ran into this Ferrari. It's like, well, you should have saw that they were going to stop. No, that's bullshit, right? They knew this needed to be eliminated, these non-basketball moves, because that's not a basketball move. We've seen it. Steve Nash said what Trae Young's doing is not basketball, even though Harden is doing the same thing. It's just kind of funny, kind of ironic. So they're like, okay, we got to unveil a plan to eliminate these rules stemming from this player launching themselves into a defender. This guy, Monty McClutchin of the NBA VP of Referee Development, said this. The reason behind it was we want to balance out the ability of a defensive player to compete with passion with an offensive player who can also compete with passion. What a wild, non-scientific explanation behind it. And when we find that balance, good competition is the result. They don't want to favor either side too much, right? 80s, 90s, too much defense favored. 2010s, too much offense. And now star players are fucked. They are so mad. Players are livid. Dame, Steph, Harden, Trae, all of them chucking. All of them Brick City. Right? Just tough. Tough. Players who relied on the line, going to the line like 10, 15 times a game, like James Harden, have seen their attempts as a result, right? Like unders are hitting. They're decreasing like 50% in some cases. And now star players are having to adjust. And they are strugs. Strug Street, baby. Trae, Dame, Booker, PG, all off to uncharacteristically slow starts. Remember I said the other day, what the fuck is up with Dame? Yeah, he can't really launch his body into people anymore and become Logo Lillard. Guys can just get up into his body and then, free throw attempts way down, points way down. Scoring now as a result of this rule change is at its lowest level on average since 2014. Woo! It's been 7 years since we've seen points scored this low. But the good news for folks, I guess, it might be good, might be bad, that the NBA might not even be done tweaking the rules as it concerns transition. They're now, I didn't even know this was they had an actual word for it. They're called take fouls. The free, the clear path foul. They're called take fouls. So the competition committee encouraged the league office to now develop a new rule change that would basically eliminate this going forward. All of this for freedom of movement that made the game so exciting without allowing the thuggery of the bad boy Pistons. Yeah, it's going to be a really interesting thing to watch. I think from a betting perspective, you're going to need to take the unders on all of those little chuckers. Take the unders on Dame. Take the unders on Harden. I got burned on that. Take the unders on Trae. Take the unders on Steph. And for other players like DeMar DeRozan and Rashawn Holmes, guys who can actually play through contact because they are built ready to play in the 80s and 90s, the rule changes are actually allowing them to thrive. And for others, like I said, like Dame, like Trae, like Harden, sink or swim, baby. Because these rule changes, I hate to say, are here to stay.